call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good morning. This is the regular scheduled meeting, executive board and full commission meeting scheduled for Thursday, August 29th at 9 a.m. We'll call the meeting to order. We'll do introductions real quick. We'll go from clockwise. Starting with myself, I'm David Uran, Mayor of City Crown Point.
I'm Ty Warner, Executive Director for NERC.
Ryan Snedeker, Mayor for the City of Portage.
Blair Milo, Mayor of LaPorte.
Jim Tom, Chesterton Town Council.
Bob Schaefer, President, Long Beach Town Council.
Dave Decker, Commissioner, LaPorte County.
Good morning, Karen Freeman Wilson, Mayor of Garrett.
James Snyder, Mayor of Portage.
Bob Ogren, Lindott.
Bob Carnahan, Cedar Lake Town Council.
Kevin Brightsky, Porter County Surveyor.
Chip Simmons, Winfield Town Council.
Rich Brozinski, LaPorte County Council.
Pam Richard, New Chicago Town Council.
Anthony Pampalone, Weekly Township Trustee.
Christine Sid, Lake County Council.
John Costas, Valparaiso Mayor.
Don Parker, Lowell Town Council.
Dick Ludlow, Schneider Town Council.
Rosalie Jacobs, Kingsford Heights Clerk Treasurer.
Michael Griffin, Clerk Treasurer for the people of Highland.
Jeff Decker, Dyer Town Council.
Tom Schmidt, Cheryl Town Council.
Diane Knoll, Town of Morgantown Clerk Treasurer.
Tom Plaza, Town of Ogden Dunes, Council Member.
John Baylor, Trail Creek Town Council. Dave Schaefer, Clerk Treasurer for the Town of Munster.
Joe Stahura, Mayor of the City of Whiting.
Mary Thornton, Nurses Staff.
Jim Larry, Porter County Council.
Don Ensley, President, Haven Town Council.
Nancy Adams, Porter County Commissioner.
Dave Hollenbeck, Attorney for NERC.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. And for sake of keeping things on pace today, we just wanted to introduce the commission members, and we're going to keep try to keep on time this morning. First is the report of the chair. I have a couple correspondence to read. One, the NERC commissioners voted last meeting to send a correspondence to the city of Portage. Just wanted to make sure that this was in the public record. This was from our Executive Director, Ty Warner. It says, "Dear Chief Williams, at the direction of Northwest Indiana Regional Planning Commission, Board of Commissioners, I'm sending this letter to simply inform you that while NERC respects the decision of the City of Portage to send a police officer presence to the NERC Commission meetings, the Commission itself has not requested it. While the decision was made by the City of Portage, the request for police presence at the Commission meeting was not has not been at the NERC's volition. As tenants of the facility owned by the City of Portage, and on behalf of the Commission and the NERC staff, we want to thank you for the great service you provide, ensuring the safety and security of the NERC staff and visitors. Sincerely, Ty Warner, our Executive Director. So I just want to make sure that the board members who did vote on that did take place, and we'll put that publicly. Also, report of the chair, there's going to be an executive session for the full commission on September 10th at 1:30 here at our home base here in Portage. This is for pending litigation, and that's all I'll talk about that. Just put that on your calendar. Executive session, full commission, September 10th, 1:30 for commission members only. And that's all I have reported by chair this morning. And we'll move on to the approval of the minutes that took place on July 18th, 2013. What is the commission's pleasure?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? Any discussion, corrections, deletions, additions to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor with an eye?
Aye.
Against? The ayes have it, thank you. And we'll immediately go right into our F&P, Finance and Personnel Committee, and Blair, my chair.
The first item on the F&P list will be for the building lease. There's been significant discussion that I've tried to make sure that we've kept everyone informed of the process that the Finance and Personnel Committee has used to make a recommendation. And we went through a number of options, and at the, I believe it was August 14th, the Finance and Personnel Committee met for a special session to come to a recommendation. It is our recommendation that for NERC to remain at the Portage location with the following amendments to the motion that was suggested, that that there would be a completion deadline for an internet upgrade by April 1st, 2014, or a 10% monthly rent reduction, and that the build-out would be completed in a timely manner, as well as being ADA compliant, that the actual rent costs would be based on actual space need and usage based on the quoted rent per square foot price, and that the term of the lease, whether it be 5 years or 10 years, and those were an either-or option, would be determined after a space need and build-out determination had been approved, which is in the process of being conducted. So at this point, the Finance and Personnel Committee makes that following recommendation. I'll make that motion on behalf of the Finance and Personnel Committee.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Do we have a second?
Second, under discussion?
Mr. President, I just want to commend the chair, Mayor Milo, and the members of that committee. This has been a difficult task, and I know that informally I heard some of the conversations about some of the rigors of the discussions, and I think it's a sound recommendation. I commend them for the heavy lifting they all did. Thank you for that, and I'm going to be pleased to vote for this. Thank you.
Under discussion as well, I would like to also say as the chair that through Blair's leadership and everybody that participated on this, if anybody did not receive communication, I don't know where you're at, because you did a great job of making sure everybody got the information on this. Everybody had an opportunity to participate in the decision-making process of this, and definitely set the bar on how to communicate with high topics that really affects a lot of different communities. So on behalf of myself, I'm sure I speak for all the other commissioners and echo Mr. Griffin's comments that everybody that participated in that process. Outstanding job, outstanding job.
I'd also like to say thanks to all those that submitted in the process. There was a lot of time and effort that went into this, and you know, all the meetings and discussions that had to occur in getting to where we're at. There was a lot of effort that went into that, so I want to say thank you also to the different entities that submitted requests and proposals to us.
Any other discussion?
Could you have the council members speak up? We can hardly hear you.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor signify by an aye.
Aye.
Against? These ayes have it.
The second item that I have from the Finance and Personnel Committee is for a budget amendment, and the amendment is for an addition of $5,047 that will be used to transfer contractual transit oversight from salaries to cover the contractual costs for the oversight of NERC sub-recipients. And this has been done in conjunction with a transfer that was for $2,800 that the committee previously approved in our F&P meeting. So I will make the motion for the addition of $5,047 to the contractual transit oversight line item.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Against? Ayes have it. Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. We'll move right on to our environmental management policy. Kevin?
We've attached the minutes from the last meeting. Our next meeting will be next Thursday the 3rd. Please accept. Conclusion of my report.
Very well done. Thank you. We'll move on to the Transportation Policy Committee. Junior?
Yeah, I wish mine was as short as Kevin's, but Transportation Policy Committee met on August 13th, and we have three.
Please use microphone, thank you.
Okay, Transportation Policy Committee met on August 13th. We have 3 actions for consideration today. Just a brief update here. The committee heard an update from Stephen regarding the proposed resolution supporting the Amtrak service from Chicago to Indianapolis. We'll be taking that up at our September TPC meeting. The committee also heard a presentation regarding Indiana Rail Vision. You have it regarding the 15 worst highway/rail crossings in the region. If you have any questions, please contact Jack Eskin on that. The committee also heard an update on the Ileana Expressway process. The NERC staff is working with NDOT in regards to the public comment period. And if you have any questions on that, please contact Mitch, and he will be glad to answer them. The group of actions that we have to recommend for the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan have 3 resolutions. First resolution is 13-15, which is on page 27 of your handout, and I will ask Gary Evers to update you on that. Maybe I won't ask Gary Evers to update you.
I know I saw him in the hall.
Or Mitch, can you fill in for Gary? If anybody needs a refill on coffee, the pot is located behind you.
Maybe being 17 minutes ahead of schedule, call us the
Well, we're waiting on him. I'll just add at the end your CMAP report of public comment period for Illinois' Ileana portion will conclude on September 3rd. And our next TPC meeting will be September 10th at 9 a.m.
I found him.
Where's he going now?
Drink.
As stated, Gary Evers will give us describe the action needed for resolution 13-15.
Actually, I've got a document that needs to be reviewed by you and approved prior to those 3 actions this morning. What we have before you as one of your handouts is a document titled Public Comment Summary Report. This report is a summary of all the public comment that was received regarding the 3 actions that are before you this morning. The document is fairly straightforward. The first page indicates that identifies the 3 documents, the public comment period that was conducted, and the public meeting that was conducted as well. There is an error under document 2 under public comment period conducted.
Excuse me, Gary, we've got a number of people who are visually impaired. Instead of saying, as you can see, could you say what document you're referring to, please?
I'm referring to the public comment summary report.
Of which particular?
Gary, please.
We heard about
Please
3, so
continue, Gary.
we just need to know which one you're speaking about.
I'm speaking about the public comment summary report, which discusses public comment received on 3 documents. I will identify the 3 documents.
That's what I need.
The air quality conformity determination between the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan as amended, the fiscal year 2014 to 2017 Transportation Improvement Program as amended, and the Indiana State Implementation Plan for Air Quality. That is document number 1. Document number 2 is Amendment 2 to the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan. Document number 3 is the Transportation Improvement Plan Program for Lake Porter and LaPorte counties for state fiscal year 2014 through 2017. There are 4 documents that I'm discussing this morning. The document that I will recite, not quite verbatim, is the document titled Public Comment Summary Report, Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission, August 29, 2013. There are, I believe, 24 comments that this report contains. In some instances, the comments were responded to directly to the individual posing the comment. In other cases, this is the summary of the response that we are proposing be provided to the person asking the question. If it was a question, if it was a comment, then we will be posting this on our website and releasing this for public distribution. To go through these, one of the comments in here is who will determine the significance of the comments that were received. Our response to that question was that the commission would in fact determine the significance. If there is anything that we're going to cover in here that you find or you feel warrants perhaps a redoing of the entire comment period, alterations, significant or not, to the documents that you're being asked to approve this morning, or any other changes, this is your call. We have, I will attempt to be as brief as I can. The first comment was made on July 17th. This was a comment that NERC had not conducted the formal public meeting required by the FTA planning regulation. Our response was made before you last in this room at your July meeting on the 18th. The Federal Highway FTA planning regulations do require such a meeting. We delayed the adoption of the TIP until after the public meeting had been held. The public comment period was extended for all three subject documents that I read previously, and the required meeting was held on Wednesday, August 21st, 2013. We also note here that this caused us to comply with the federal regulations for the planning that are required in the adoption of plans and TIPs. It did not, however, deal with the requirement under our consent decree with everybody counts to provide a 60-day advance notice of board action or a 30-day advance notice of a pending public comment period. The second comment was at the NERC board meeting, and this goes back to the July meeting. Staff did not distribute to the audience paper copies of the documents to be considered by the board. Our proposed response is that NERC members are provided copies of documents in advance of their meeting. Staff believes that it is both important and appropriate, at least in the case of these three documents, to distribute paper copies at the meeting at which the board will adopt them. This increases transparency and promotes a fuller understanding of our processes and procedures. Comment number 3, and this has to do with Munster's proposed construction or extension of Main Street from Calumet Avenue into the state of Illinois. Main Street should be eliminated from your 2040 plan and not be done at all. This was one of the changes that we were making in the three documents, so our response was that roadway capacity increasing projects are included in our transportation plan because of the sponsoring unit of government, that is a city, town, or county, has 1, requested the inclusion of the project in the plan. 2, the project has cleared our congestion management process, or CMP. 3, the project has cleared our environmental justice analysis. 4, the project, when added to the existing network in our transportation model, does not cause total emissions to exceed the limits imposed by the state implementation plan for air quality. And 5, the project has been found to be generally compliant with the goals and objectives of our plan. We will be referring this comment to the town of Munster for their consideration. Comment number 4 The Ileana Expressway should be added to the 2040 plan. NERC has already been requested by the project sponsor, that being NDOT, to add this project to our plan. We are handling the request using the 5-step process indicated in response to comment 3, which was the prior comment. Comment number 5, Porter, that is the town of Porter, does not want to reduce the lane count on State Road 49. Their verbatim comment, while we would love to see an improvement on the 4920 interchange, we do not want it to be at the expense of creating a local road of SR 49. And I believe what this implies is that there is some conversation between the town and NDOT about relinquishing to the town that stretch of SR 49. Our response is that the conformity determination and the plan amendment proposed do in fact show the travel lane reduction on SR 49 at this location. But the TIP does not include the construction project that was proposed. We agree with the town of Porter that there needs to be a meeting of the stakeholders in this area so that everyone has a clear picture of what's being done and by whom. We were somewhat surprised to hear that relinquishment was on the table. We had not been made aware of that fact. So we are looking forward to that meeting and getting this matter made as clear as possible. The next grouping of comments are comments that were received at the formal public meeting held on August 21st, 2013. I will skip 2 paragraphs of text that simply indicate how the describe the format of the meeting, who did the introductions, who made the presentations, etc. What we're indicating here is and the following comments are comments that we have either heard in person or we have gleaned from listening to the tape of the meeting that was made. And I am back on page 2. Page 4. Comment. In terms of transit, what are specific plans for Hammond? North Township's, our response is North Township's Demand Response Service and Gary Public Transportation Corporation investments into their services within Hammond, including the Tri-City Corridor, are included in the proposed TIP. There are no firm plans under development at this time to restore fixed route bus service to Hammond. Comment 7, and this is similar to a prior comment. Why were there no hard copies of the documents to review? Staff, and our response is staff erred in not distributing paper copies of the subject documents at the public meeting. We apologized and indicated that we would revise our policy and practice. It was stated that the documents remain posted in text and PDF format at the NERC website. And there's a reference here also back to comment 2. Comment number 8. What mailing lists were used to contact people and distribute information on the open houses? Response. The following computerized lists were used in informing the public of the 3 open house meetings. And we refer readers to comment number 9 as well, which we'll get to in a minute. There are a number of committee or mailing list names here recited, which I will not mention, but it's an exhaustive list of different contact lists that we use to inform people of different events or items at NERC. Comment number 9, NERC is missing at least 20 key Gary community organizations from its lists. NERC needs to be better about contacting community organizations. The response number 1, which is the verbal response that was provided at the meeting, was that we can always use assistance from our partners throughout the region in making sure that our lists are as inclusive as possible. If you know of any that are not currently included, please let us know that we may make contact and add them. Response number 2, which is a recommended staff response. Notwithstanding the above, NERC is very much committed to maintaining current up-to-date stakeholder contact information. We have a staff-level IT working group looking into effective low-cost solutions for managing snail mail, that is U.S. Postal Service, and email addresses, as well as social media, such as Facebook, Twitter, etc. We must quickly adapt to the changing communication culture of our citizens. Comment number 10, the comment, NERC's mailing lists need to be organized. Our response at the meeting it was that we are trying to do that. The staff supplemental response is that we in fact agree with that, and that we are in fact have these efforts ongoing here in the office as identified under comment number 9. Comment number 11, the comment, how do we know our comments have been noted? Our response was by attending the August 29th meeting of the NERC Commission. A public comment summary report, that is this document, will be prepared and put before our board on the 29th. Comment number 12, who will determine if the comments are significant? Response, the NERC Commission will make that determination. Comment number 13, meetings at NERC are hard to get to without an automobile. Better transit options are needed. 3-part response here. Comments from the public on these kinds of matters are appreciated and always welcome. Response number 2, regarding the need for better transit options, NERC can only do so much in promoting the retention and expansion of existing public transit services within the region. Local units of government create, continue, or terminate public transit services, we believe, in response to local political and physical realities. Response number 3, NERC's draft public participation plan proposes to use variable meeting locations for the Transportation Policy Committee and real-time webcasting with interactive features. As noted in response to comment number 9, we must quickly adapt to new technologies that our citizens are using and not be fearful of doing so. Comment number 14, what is the difference between a hearing and an open house? A public hearing is a legal meeting which is required to be conducted by the General Assembly, Congress, the judiciary, or other similar authority. Indiana law requires that a legal notice be provided in a certain way for a hearing. During the course of the hearing, the party conducting the hearing can only listen and not respond. An open house is a less formal type of public meeting. The open house format allows NERC to respond to questions and comments posed on the spot. This format also permits most attendees to leave the meeting with their questions answered. Comment number 15, when are people going to see concrete progress from all of these plans? Response, we are already seeing progress from previous tips, such as the new bridge at Buffington Harbor, a rebuilt Rutledge Road and Broadway intersection that were funded in 2007. As well, Gary has rebuilt Grant Street. We're attempting to keep the examples, only the site examples within the Gary area. 16, what are the numbers of different types of projects? We responded with information from one of the PowerPoint slides. NDOT highway projects, there are 301. Regional highway projects, 121. Bicycle and pedestrian, 56. Carryover public transit, 60. National Lakeshore projects, 2. Comment 17, why does it seem to take so long for projects to get done? A question I've asked myself many times too. A construction project typically takes 5 to 6 years to complete, from initial project proposal to completion of construction. This, meaning the delay, can be for a variety of reasons such as environmental impact study or right-of-way acquisition. Comment number 18, with the highest population density being in Lake County, why does more money not be given to transit in Lake County? The response here is that federal money doesn't pay all the bills. A bigger investment is needed on the part of local entities in transit, as well as other infrastructure such as sidewalks. Comment number 19, what is in the tip to create a cohesive regional transit system? The first response at the meeting was that this is not the purpose of the tip. That is the purpose of the long-range transportation plan. The supplemental response is that the tip is a short-term spending plan for federal surface transportation funds. It is not in and of itself a plan. And we refer the reader to responses to comments made elsewhere in the document. Comment number 20, what is NERC doing to implement the long-range plan's call for a better regional transportation system? This will be a topic for the 2015 update of the long-range plan. However, how to respond to this call largely rests with the public transit operators. Local communities have to have the desire to provide transit service and support it with their local tax and fare box dollars. Local buy-in is critical. The new Lake County income tax might provide an opportunity for more public transit funds. Comment number 21, the meeting location did not appear to meet ADA accessibility standards. Our response is that we agree. No future meetings will be held at this location. We will utilize the Miller Branch Library or other accessible locations for future meetings in Gary. Comment 22, I would like to obtain copies of documents in Microsoft Word and Excel or Braille. How do I do this? Our response was that we would transmit the documents in the requested Microsoft formats to the person making the request. Comment 23, the lapsed ADA complimentary paratransit credentials of a customer of the Lake Regional Bus Authority's Hammond area service prevented this person from accessing similar services in Baltimore, Maryland. This person posed 2 questions. Where is the medical information that was provided to RVA? And 2, how do I renew my credentials? The response to the first question, we do not know the specific location of the medical information. We believe that it, along with other official records of the RVA, were sealed and delivered to a branch of state government in Indianapolis. We can attempt to find out and communicate what information we find. The second part regarding renewal of credentials, depending upon where you reside, you should re-register for complimentary paratransit service with Gary PTC, East Chicago Transit, Chicago Transit Authority, or Pace Bus. That is the end of the comments received at the meeting on the 21st of August. There were other comments. We have one other comment here that was received. We've included the comment verbatim. The response, the verbatim response is included as well. But to summarize, the commenter indicated that the presentation was very brief and there were no printed materials distributed. The commenter evidently resides or has business interests in the Miller Beach area of Gary, concerned about the reliability of public transit within that area, as well as NICTE's platforms, raised platforms at their Lake Street station there in Miller Beach, insisting that the South Shore station must stay at Lake Street. A final comment made by this individual had to do with missing bike links, bicycle and pedestrian trails within the Miller Beach area. Our response, I will attempt to summarize it for you. Regarding the availability of copies of the documents, it's simply a recitation of what I've indicated earlier. We referred this individual to our webpage, and I believe we provided the printed copies of the documents for their consideration. We've made a general statement about in support of the individual contacting NICTE to learn the plans, if any, for construction, reconstruction, or relocation of the platform at the Lake Street Station in Miller area. And we've made a referral to Mitch Barlow of our staff regarding the bicycle and pedestrian concern. That is the end of the summary report. What we would ask you to quickly review it. If there are anything of significance, by significance I mean something that would cause us to go back. Number one, alter the document, change one of the three documents in some way, shape, or form in response to one or more of the comments. Secondly, measuring the significance of each comment. There were some deal breakers in there, from what I could detect. The first one was that we disclosed last month, and that had to do with our failure to conduct the required public meeting. Absolute fatal flaw. We have corrected that, made that correction, I believe, and adequately responded to the comments that we were able to glean from both of the public meeting that was held, as well as the other correspondence that was received regarding these projects. We don't see anything that would, we don't see any problems here. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, but it's your call. And so we would ask you to consider, and by some form of voice vote, to approve this particular report. This report, again, will be embedded in the transportation improvement program that we're going to get to in a minute or two, as well as attached to the conformity determination. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before we formally consider, can I just get some clarifications about the report summary we just received, perhaps?
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Evers, I want to make sure I understood this. In your verbal remarks, when you described this, you thought the consent decree had a 60-day advance notice. It says 30 days here.
It's 30 days ahead of
okay, and
the
did we
public
comply with
comment
that?
period.
Today, have we complied with that?
No.
Okay. And then I want to talk about I actually think this is imaginative. I hadn't thought about the open house being used for the formal public meeting, but on its face, I actually think it could be a more effective way to try to get information out. I was struck, by the way, we should compliment Ty. There was a comment in here that said they learned more talking to him in just a few minutes than they learned it. So you're a great talker. And I commend you for that. But I had a question about, what kind of a record did you generate about that formal public meeting that keeps it still aligned with usually what formal public hearings require? Was there a list of the
You mean
persons who
hearing
spoke?
or meeting? You use the term
You
hearing.
called this the formal public meeting to satisfy the, and it's not a hearing, it's a meeting?
The regulation.
The CFR talks about a meeting and not a hearing.
Correct.
Thank you, that's all I need to know. Mr. President, I thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. President. Explain, please, again, exactly what a positive vote on this particular thing that you went through, what this does exactly, and what this generates, and how does this affect the whole process on this particular document that you've been kind enough to explain?
It simply permits the three documents to be adopted.
And what's the point of that?
It means that you are confirming the staff report. The vote on the report, an affirmative vote on the report indicates that you're accepting of the report that's been put before you.
To what end?
What if it's not adopted?
No, to what end are we accepting this? I mean, do we have to do this, or is this something, for the process? Or are we doing this to verify the staff's going back and trying to assure that the process is in the right direction?
My history has shown that I can write all the words that I care to in any type of report, but they are meaningless unless they become your words. This is your report. We are doing this in your stead and on behalf of you. It's that simple. We did this. We came before you in June 2011 with, I believe, a 15-page summary of the comments that were received in response to the development of our comprehensive regional plan. Asked the same sort of thing for sort of a ratification of the staff report or take exceptions to it.
Okay, let me try one more way of asking the question. If this is positively acted on, what does this generate? What does this put into place?
I see Steve rising to bail me out. Grab a mic.
I'm Steve Strains. I can help answer the question. Our job as a staff is to put before you a recommendation such as a transportation improvement program and have you make an informed decision. Informed decision, for one thing, means to hear and to understand the comments that have been given to us by the public, and then to hear and understand and accept the responses. So positive action means that you're on your way to make an informed decision, and you've heard the comments, and you've heard the responses. Does that help? Help you make an informed decision.
Which will do what?
You never answered the question.
Wouldn't that be a question for legal counsel?
Wow. Do we have a recommendation from legal counsel on this act?
Wow.
I guess the only recommendation.
I thank you for that request, Commissioner. I would like to know with regard to specifically the consent decree issue. That's of interest to me.
I guess my recommendation at this point, and candidly, I did not know of the 30-day issue until I heard it this morning. Harry, you're looking at me like I...
You're the lawyer.
That being the case, I think any action you take today to approve it should be conditioned upon my opportunity to revisit that 30-day issue to see to what extent that would create a legal impediment to proceeding today. And if I deem it does, then we'll have to revisit this issue.
Could I add some append on to that? The notice should have been filed, I believe, in this is not new information. It has been well known in this office that we were in non-compliance with that 30-day advance notice. This is simply not new. I apologize.
And I'm sorry, I was under the impression by stepping back and revisiting these things, we were curing those problems.
That's what I thought that was our effort.
And if that's
why I was trying
not
to
the
clarify.
case, then I need to look at it.
No, again,
Billy
we're
was
talking
right.
about something that happened in June, or didn't happen in June.
So we're nearly cured.
We do not yet have the benefit of whatever the ad hoc committee has developed or is developing regarding public participation. I do not know. I've sat through several hours of meetings. I do not know where you're taking us, and I'm not too terribly concerned about it because give us something here.
Mr. Chair?
I don't know what the resolution here is. What we could do is start the clock over. It means that we will provide a 30-day notice of an upcoming TIP action and conformity determination and plan amendment to the respondents, I don't know, the plaintiffs, the people who signed the consent decree. Beyond that 30-day period, what we are talking about is not having a new transportation improvement program online and approved until for another 60 days. Until the October meeting, which will time it just perfectly with Ileana. Again, your call. And maybe, but if it's not adopted today, then in order to comply with the consent decree, we have to provide a 60-day notice period, minimum. We are.
This is 30 here.
30 days ahead of the public comment period. Then there's a 30-day comment period.
Now I see what you're
So
saying.
60 days is, it's not turning
We
on.
have complied with the 30-day comment period. What
I
I'm
understand
hearing
that.
is that there was a flaw in the first 30-day process.
Yes, yes.
Mr. Chair, I don't have any substantive reservations about the work product. So, but part of this is because of the orientation of being a clerk treasurer. And so much, you know this now, we're in budget time. We can have excellent budgets, but if we don't follow the statutory procedures, our excellent budget is for naught. So I just want to make sure that we're following any procedure that has the force of law on us. And I will defer to legal counsel.
And I think I would reiterate, hearing this, my legal opinion hasn't changed. To the extent that you're prepared to approve this today, it should be done contingent upon my ability to revisit the issue that's been raised and determine to what extent that issue creates a legal impediment. And if, in my opinion, it does, then Gary's right. We need to go back and revisit that issue.
So, Mr. Chair, if I have allowance to have the informal colloquy, I want to defer to the chair. Thank you. So what would happen if you make the determination that we have to start over? So our adoption today, in effect,
You will not adopt today.
Would be null and void.
so is there any, so you're suggesting perhaps that we adopt today because there might be some economy of administration because it would be at least adopted if you determine that it's okay?
What I'm suggesting is that to the extent you're prepared to adopt this today, it should be done conditionally on your lawyer's ability to revisit the flaw that has been identified to me and to determine to the extent to which that flaw would create an impediment, in my opinion, to the successful adoption. If it does, then we'll have to go back and revisit this. If I determine that it doesn't, then your action, if you are inclined to approve it today, would stand.
Mr. President?
Tom,
Billable hours.
Mr. Chairman, it's hard to pay attention to a meeting when you're getting constantly interrupted by people behind you. It's really, it's distracting. I've never been to a public meeting where it's constantly being peppered behind me. So I would ask Ms. Torres to hold it down because it's distracting the meeting, in my opinion.
You're saying you can't hear the meeting?
I'm having trouble because you're being constantly peppered by people sitting behind me, so.
We would appreciate if all comments could be just held, unless you're recognized by the chair, so we can run a smooth information, so that way, anybody speaking can be heard by everybody. We appreciate that.
It's just common courtesy, Mr. Chairman.
Great.
Mr. President.
Well, let me get a clarification. I just want to make sure that everyone, Gary, what you're saying here, Gary, is that we failed to notify 30 days ahead of time that we were going to have a 30-day public comment period.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, what you've done here today is taken the public comments that were at those meetings and put them in the record. But unfortunately, maybe somebody during that 30-day notice was not aware that they could show up 30 days prior to that meeting to make a comment.
The problem is we are in compliance with the federal regulations, and we are simply failing back in June, May, June, on the notification required under the terms of the consent decree.
Does the commissioners understand what just took place here?
Mr. Chairman. Gary, what is your recommendation? What do you think would solve this? I know we got the legal counsel here who can tell us, but it seems like you've been through the process from the beginning. You done felt the birth pains. What are you suggesting? Any recommendations you're suggesting?
I will defer in whole to Mr. Hollenbeck on this one. I believe that the board can safely adopt the 3 documents, at least the first 2, the conformity determination and the plan amendment. These are not significant documents covered by the consent decree. The 3rd document, the tip, is what this process would delay if it is not adopted today would be Amendment 1, which affects public transit operators. It will inhibit their ability to access federal funds until such time that the tip is in fact approved. NDOT is rejecting, or actually Federal Highway is rejecting FEMA's obligations, that is federal obligations of federal funds within Federal Highway's accounting system. For NDOT projects so far, they are being harmed as we speak by our delay, even to August. There may be delays up the road ahead. So far, there's only been 1 construction project, a state construction project that's been impacted by this. But in terms of our local programs, I know East Chicago has a levy coming up on Bering Avenue within a week or 2. That is not affected. Everything that was in our old tip has been continued for the time being. So there's really not a lot of harm locally to this. But to NDOT, definitely yes. There's definite harm by this delay being experienced.
Thank you, Mr. President. If I think that if we, I've been involved in a committee chaired by Mayor Copeland that has spent a lot of time trying to apply medicine and surgical procedures on some of the things that we've done or not done. And staff has done the same. And I think what I'm understanding from our attorney and from the discussion is that those who have worked on this believe that this is corrective, and this in fact will be part of the process that can make this move forward. So if we vote on this today and we vote positively, fine. If by chance Mr. Hollenbeck finds that this is not all that we need, we can always come back and do it again. But it would be better if we voted on it today and in a positive nature with the hopes that we don't have to revisit it again. Is that fair, Attorney Hollenbeck?
Yeah, George, I think that's what I was trying to say. Again, to the extent that you're prepared to entertain and approve what you're being asked to do by the staff today, the only request I would have is that approval be conditioned upon my ability, subsequent to this morning, to have an opportunity to determine whether, as your lawyer, in my belief, is there a legal impediment created by the consent decree in approving 1, 2, or 3 of these documents, and if there is, then, and it's not, it may not, as already alluded to, it may not be an either or. Some of these documents may not be covered to the extent that some of the other ones are, and I have to make that determination and then report back to my client to what extent I believe that the process and the procedures that were followed create an impediment to your approval of it. But certainly I don't think there's an impediment to you approving the documents this morning as long as you approve them with that condition.
I'd like to know the recommendation of our executive director for that action.
I would say the same. You've got, for your attorney Hollenbeck, you've got these documents before you. The third one is really an issue, the tip matter. We had done this meeting today to try to make sure that we were in compliance with the 30-day public comment period. Counting back, I'm not sure how that factors into when everybody counts was aware of when notice had been said to have been given from counting back from the public comment period, but that's what we'll have to look at. The consent decree issue is, I have to defer to Attorney Hollenbeck for that on the tie-in to the consent decree with the validity of approving the tip, but I think finding that conditional approval based on looking at that should be able to hopefully not, for lack of a better term, mess up NDOT too much for the projects they have to pursue.
And I'll make that motion contingent upon council's review.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Any further discussion?
Mr. President, with great respect, I feel that Resolution 1315 and 1316 should be passed. But there seems to be too many questions in my mind about 1317. Pass that and then go back and react to a legal opinion later. I think we ought to hold off personally on 1317, and we ought to go ahead and pass 15 and 16. But 17 is the one that's going to make issues, if anything is. I would rather defer until I get an opinion and not act and then have to react to an opinion.
Mr. Chairman. I'm a little unsure, Attorney Hollenbeck, how will the process go if you determine there is an issue? Will this not be addressed until the next full commission meeting? And at that point, would NDOT projects be in limbo? I think there's some questions we need to know as a full board. If there is an issue and we have to readdress this and go through the process, I mean, this could really jeopardize potential funding for projects that are
for NDOT projects. So all of our local projects, the ones scheduled for construction in the next 6 months are in the old TIF. In some cases, funds have already been obligated. There are no issues there. The harm, again, is with NDOT and to a lesser extent the delay that will be imposed on the transit community in accessing their dollars. But what we can do, the day we get the message from Attorney Hollenbeck, we can file this, what I'll call the 60-day notice, with everybody counts and the plaintiffs to the consent decree as required by the decree, and then start the clock again and bring this matter to you again in October. Say if he can write his opinion this afternoon, then we can start that 60-day proceeding. I'm hopeful. That we get, the sooner that we get the opinion, the sooner we can kick out, get the process, the 60-day clock moving. That's what I'd say, if that's your desire.
Again, I guess my proposed solution to this was an attempt to be sensitive to the very issue that you're raising. You know, that's the timing issue in all of this. Again, I think the best solution to this is to the extent that you are prepared to approve 1, 2, or 3 of these resolutions, you do that with the condition that I be given the opportunity to determine the extent to which there is a fatal flaw in your adoption due to compliance or lack thereof with the consent decree. If there isn't, then all 3 have been approved and we've preserved the timing issue. If there is an issue, then I'll have to work with staff to resolve that issue either some way without starting the clock all over again, or the worst case scenario being starting the clock all over for 1, 2, or 3 of these resolutions.
Again, my interpretation of the decree is that it does not pertain to conformity determination.
Gary, with all due respect, it's my job to determine what that consent is.
Agreed.
Mr. Chairman.
And we do have a motion on the floor. We're still under discussion. Under discussion, I might want to ask the two that made the motion that we take these individually with the caveat that we attach the attorney's review of each one of them, so that way they're independently looked at, because I hate to see if one jeopardizes all 3, then we'd have to bring all 3 back to the table because it was under one motion. So if we separate it out and each one of them have clean action, they can proceed on their own merits.
I thank the chair for that clarification, if the mover is willing to.
Yeah, I'm willing to amend my motion accordingly.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
as a former chairman of NERC, I could attest to Attorney Hollenbeck's expertise and advice. Helped me a lot during my year as chairman. I know he's been doing this job for a very long time. I think in this case, we got to trust him because he's an able and competent attorney. He's given us good advice, in my opinion. And if the 3rd amendment, or the 3rd resolution is in question, we're passing it contingent upon his legal research. And if he finds an error, then we'll have to fix that error. But in the meantime, we may jeopardize all these programs because we're being cautious. And I just want to reiterate my confidence in Attorney Hollenbeck's opinion. I think we should follow his advice and pass all 3 of these resolutions.
I agree with you 100% there, because these are jobs that are created out there. One of the information was about transit dollars. And I think everybody in this room would agree that the more money we can put in transit to make sure we don't have interruption in those services are very important to everybody in this room. And so we're kind of caught in the middle of what everybody wants, but we're looking at the legal ease of dotting i's and crossing t's, and just making sure everybody has the ability to have their statement heard and their comments. And I appreciate, Gary, that you read the statements in the record. And I think one thing that Gary was asking us to do was to adopt that summary into this report as well, so that it was recognized not only through your abilities to do it in public, but also put the document in the public record. So we need to do that as well during this process. Because those were important statements that were put in there. There was a lot of good information shared to the staff that we can do a better job of communicating. And I think at the end of the day, if we do all those things and we have that spirit of cooperation, that's what everybody wants in this room. And I think that's one thing we all can push together on. Call for a question.
Mr. Chairman. My question is, we talked at some of these transit agencies, there'll be a delay in their receiving funds. Are we talking about their 2014 funds? I mean.
Yes. But any delay is a delay.
Okay.
And specifically, if you've been following Congress, we have the debt limit ceiling that they're running into.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to call a question.
So the question on the motion that was amended, we're going to take these individually. So is the first motion then on just 13-15, legal recommendation? That's the first motion. That was the second?
Second.
Okay, so we're still in discussion on that, so we have a motion before to approve 13-15, pending legal review. Any further discussion? Call for the question. All in favor with an aye?
Aye.
Against? You guys have it. We have a motion for approval of resolution 13-16, pending legal review.
You do.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor with an aye?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
I'll revert back to discussion, Jeff. Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just wanted a clarification on 1316. Does the complementary determination network date, does that change from the 2014 to 2017 plan? When it says it's moved to the 2020 network?
Gary, can you provide that?
There was an adjustment in the horizon years for the conformity determination mandated by NDOT and IDN and Federal Highway. So when there's a date, a network date, it presumes that the project will have been constructed and open to traffic prior to January 1st of that year.
Okay.
That is the presumption in placing these or stratifying these projects among the various horizon years.
Okay, because I'm specifically talking about Kennedy Avenue, and I noticed that one got changed to the 2025 and one got changed to 2020.
Right.
I guess my concern is that that road would probably be constructed all at one time.
That's not the information the town has provided us. Again, we are running with what information communities have provided to us. That project is funded in 2 phases. The first chunk between Junction and US 30 is going to be built before the segment from Junction up to
Oak Street. Oak Street.
Yes, Oak Street. Thank you. Okay. Again, you might want to get clarification from your staff from Jeff as to how that's going to fall out, but that's information we've been given.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Call for the question. All in favor, signify by an aye.
Aye.
Against, the ayes have it. Do we have a motion on action resolution 13-17 pending legal review?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Yes, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by an aye.
Aye.
Against, the ayes have it.
No.
No.
The ayes have it. We have a motion on the public comment summary that was reported by Gary Evers this morning to add that to the public record. We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Yes.
The mailing list, Mr. Evers?
Yes, sir.
Comprise how many contacts approximately?
I believe, would we guess about 2,500? I don't know. I cannot. I have no answer. I do not know.
All right. Public attendance at the meetings was how much? Public attendance?
Good question.
Under a dozen.
Thank you.
5.
Thank you. Yes.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I had Mayor's Night Out last night. I've been doing it for 10 years. I have it every month. I had about 50 or 60 people there. I mean, public meetings, in my opinion, even though you have them, if you compete with good weather and stuff like that, I think it's very typical to have those kind of public meetings, especially if you have them in the summertime. So I don't think it's too shocking to say that Nursey had a meeting and not a lot of people showed up. In my opinion, as mayor of the
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by an aye.
Aye.
Against? The ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, report.
Thank you, Jim. We'll move on to the public participation plan, and I'm going to defer to Mayor Copeland, who's the chair of the ad hoc committee for this. Mayor?
Mr. Chairman, first let me say thank you for giving me a pass that without support, I would have never risen to the occasion. It's a daunting task because it takes us back in our history of NERC and people say maybe what hasn't been done, what should be done. But I'm honored to say that the report is now complete. I hope that you received it in electronic form. If not, I'd like to symbolically give you the report to tell you that's the full work of the ad hoc committee. But I would be remiss if I didn't just personally say some thanks, because along the way, we started off thinking that we were going to have 2 meetings. We ended up having 5. That's not to count the emails exchanged and even conversations amongst committee members via phone. Let me just simply start off by saying thank you to Mayor Freeman Wilson, Nancy Adams, Commissioner Closure, Mr. James Todd, George Van Til, Steve Strange, Jeff Benson, Michael Griffin, Ty Warner, the NERC staff, how they can just get all the information assimilated, crank it back out to us. I marvel at that. So Mary Thorne, thank you. And also to everybody counts, personally the interaction that we were able to have with Mr. Rudy Velasco, Teresa Torres, Renee Jackson, and Mr. George Janik. Again, I think the whole process has brought all of us closer. Saddened because I think that we were reaching the point where we were actually hearing each other. And even it didn't matter how the meeting played out, people standing on the side might thought we were battling with each other, but every time we had a meeting, we started the meeting off by touching and agreeing to say good morning, send out each other day was. So I'm humbled by that. But in the words of my esteemed colleague, Mr. Michael Griffin, in one of his emails, I think something that he penned said it all for me. And I just read it so I can kind of get it right. It said, I believe that no one act will turn around any one person's or group's disposition. However, I hope we have not been so hardened, so cynical, as to believe that from time to time, gestures of renewal are not worth trying. And that sums it all up. So that completes our report.
Mayor, thank you, and appreciate everybody that participated in those meetings. A lot of good information being shared, and a lot of good opportunity for ideas to be talked about. That's what this region is about. It's putting people in rooms, talking about the vision and the future, and I believe you accomplished those goals, so thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just echo your comments and Mr. Griffin's and our esteemed chair. We had many very meaningful discussions. It became clear to me, and it still is clear to me, that this is really the public participation plan has to be seen as the end of the beginning, not the beginning of the end. The plan has to live on and has to be revisited. And it can't just be put on the shelf.
We're going to move on to the pathway to 2040 Commission Committee, and Michael Griffin, Chair.
Mr. Chairman and my colleagues, thank you. It's good to be with you. I do want to call your attention quickly to the Little Centers Workshop. This is associated with the comprehensive plan. As you know, our comprehensive plan calls for the development of livable centers, and we've taken steps as part of implementation to see that that happens. I know everybody can read, so I'll just call your attention to it. You can read it at your leisure. Our last meeting was on July 11th, and we decided to make that meeting to be a focus of sharing best practices throughout the region that could be aligned with what we just demonstrated in the comprehensive plan. We invited Pat Popa. Pat Popa is a resident of Highland, so I'm proud to have one of my bosses there. And she's also a successful business owner in downtown Highland. And she had been sort of a catalyst for a number of things that we saw not only promoted the fine arts, but actually elevated economic development in our community as well. Among them was our Downtown Ducks project, which was sort of borrowed from the Chicago cows, but we like ducks in Highland. We have a lot of water. And we also had a mural project. It promoted the public art, again, and it's still there. A mural where people bought spaces, and we call it Water Under the Bridge. It's under the bridge. And we also emphasized how there was a strong relationship between the business community and the municipality in terms of trying to be partners in economic development. And I think what was most interesting to me, she actually decided to experiment and built a loft, much like you might see in Chicago. But she built a loft among the old 1950s style storefronts that we have sort of there in Highland, our old downtown, which is sort of an old idea made new, where people are living on top of the businesses they operate, which is an old idea made new. And her loft is quite cool. She actually said she would, I don't know if she'd invite everybody all at once, but she said she would invite people to come and see her loft. And I thought it had a lot of appeal for young people to maybe come back to the region, and we thought that that was something that was worth at least sharing with the people in the committee. We did hear a presentation on the Marquette Plan and the update. It's alignment with the 2040 plan. Also the integration of phases 1 and 2, and we talked about improving our online access, creating a GIS database, and also including historical and cultural resources as part of our framework. But I think that's all tied with our larger focus that staff has talked about improving our ways of communication and sort of being sensitive to the information age that we're in. We also had an update on the Livable Centers Initiative. To remind you of this again. And I do want to commend the staff for the work that they've been doing in between our meetings. As you know, we meet quarterly. And 20 communities have been met with by our staff, 21 of which are main centers and 34 are neighborhood centers. And a workshop's going to be held, which I just called your attention to, for the remaining small communities to identify their livable centers. So the staff has been out there in earnest trying to assist with some of the heavy lifting that's necessary for the implementation. And I did want to remind everyone that our meeting does meet, our committee meets on a quarterly basis. On Thursday, October 10th, 9 o'clock is our next meeting. And I have no other reports, no other things to mention in my report unless there's a question, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions of the chair? Thank you for the report. Land Use Committee, Richard Murphy.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. The Land Use Committee met on twice recently, on July 17th and August 14th. We discussed a few items. First, the committee discussed the committee members' final list of voting members, which assigned NERC commissioners, planners, environmental members, and individuals involved in land use over the last 2 years. And I will say there's been some excellent discussion, sharing of ideas between communities, whether it's downtown land use strategies in Gary or housing, resident housing programs being implemented in East Chicago, corridor improvements in Valparaiso or lakefront improvement projects in Hammond or Whiting. There certainly is a lot going on in Northwest Indiana, and certainly a lot I have been able to learn perspectives from land use by chairing this committee. So we encourage more commissioners to attend. We are trying to grow the attendance to this committee. Secondly, the committee heard a very excellent presentation on green alleys. DNR coastal programmer Sergio Mendoza presented green alley project examples from the Chicago Green Alley Handbook and the Green River Pattern Book. The green alley was set as the highest priority by the 2014 coastal program in terms of priorities. And I know I was enlightened by this concept of green alleys, leveraging extremely efficient urban pathways in cities and making them more safe, higher quality of life, and certainly improving public access. So I think it's an excellent opportunity. Several communities really saw alleys that could be leveraged in their urban and urban downtowns and neighborhoods as well. A couple more items. The committee heard presentations on the update of livable centers by NERC and creating livable communities, the CLC funding program by NERC. We reviewed the CLC program draft application that included eligible applicants, project eligibility, and the evaluation criteria. This round of funding is from STP Funding Group 1 and is for Lake and Porter counties. And they are for planning projects that revitalize existing centers, neighborhoods, downtowns, transit stops, or transit corridors. Finally, a local communities update. There was a federal partnership for sustainable communities event held in Gary at the Genesis Center on July 19th. City officials and stakeholders met, discussed their visions for 4 Gary neighborhoods: Horace Mann, downtown, Emerson, Etna, and Miller. And there's also a tour. And that will conclude my report unless there's any questions.
Any questions of the chair for land use? Thank you for your report. Legislative Committee, Mayor Tom McDermott.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Legislative Committee held our first meeting a few weeks ago at the NERC Seat Quarters. We met with the old chairman and talked about a lot of the issues that we want to cover for the legislative year coming up in 2014. We talked about a few of the federal issues, but a lot of those issues are largely beyond our control. Not that we wouldn't have input into it, but the state issues, some of the issues that came up, the future of the RDA, which is, I think only a couple of years remaining in the RDA's original 10-year charter, and obviously we have to have input as a body into that. Ileana Toll Road and other issues that came up, Marquette. The Legislative Committee has been really successful in the past with issues like the Shoreline Development Commission and other issues like that. And all the people sitting around this table are very talented, know a lot of people that have a lot of influence in the State House. So our next meeting is tomorrow at 1:30, right here at NERC headquarters. If you want to have input and help us, the more involved in the legislative effort, the easier it is to affect legislation downstate. So if you please stop by tomorrow at 1:30, right here at NERC headquarters. We're having the legislative committee meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions from the commissioners? Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, could Representative Soliday tell us about the visits by the legislature up in Northwest Indiana in September?
I can tell you a little about it. Representative Brown had proposed that we do something, reinstate something that's happened in the past. Some money has been raised. There will be opportunities for legislators to visit the steel mills, to visit the South Shore, to visit some of the communities. A number of the mayors are going to be speaking to the legislators. I think it's an excellent opportunity to put our best foot forward. It's also an excellent opportunity to put our worst foot forward. So a lot of us believe in the region, but many times in the State House, there are folks who hold opinions about us that have never been here. So this is an opportunity to bring them here, for all of us as public officials to interact with them and to show them that this is an excellent community and a great place to live. So I would just encourage you all to participate. It's the weekend of the 12th, 13th, and 14th. I have moved my first summer study committee meeting to the 12th, where we'll be considering 2 issues that are near and dear to the hearts of all of us. How many ports shall we have on Lake Michigan? And what is we currently have no transit-oriented development policy at NICTE, none. And it is one of the most effective tools in the nation to renew declining neighborhoods. So we're going to be taking a very close look at the roles of TOD and in our community. And we're trying to do a very comprehensive hearing. We've brought in a lot of experts, but bringing a meaningful hearing from Indianapolis up here is part of attracting legislators to come and see our region.
Mr. Chairman, Representative Soliday reminded me also the bill that was floated last year, went to summer study, about the composition of the NICTE board is something that this body's got to have influence on as well. I personally thought the changes were well warranted last year, but sort of got gummed up. But I appreciate Representative for reminding me that that's a major issue that we're going to have to take a position on for sure to help give Representative Soliday some support downstate. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to note, though, that NICTE has partnered with the RDA in studying TOD and the future of transportation in the South Shore train. I feel, we do need to have some input in the composition of NICTE, but I think it's working just fine the way it is. I think it has equal representation of the counties, the same that we have here. And I don't believe in a majority of one county or another.
If I could add one thing to what Representative Solly said, as of yesterday, we have 60 non-Northwest Indiana legislators signed up to come, so we're hoping we'll have a good attendance in the process.
Mr. Chair, just a brief comment on the topic of transit-oriented development that pertains to a project in Michigan City. After several years of analyzing the location of the South Shore Station in Michigan City, the city and NICD, through a partnership of the Tiger II grant, recently came to a consensus to look at a new downtown station in the existing 10th and 11th Street corridor. One of the main reasons for that consensus, especially from the city's perspective, was leveraging a very powerful concept called transit-oriented development. So that has been a huge project in Michigan City. It's something that we've finally been able to come to the consensus with the railroad on, that we can revitalize our downtown centers with transit to the Chicago metropolitan area and South Bend and every community between.
Thanks, man. Any other comments? Thank you. We'll go right to MnDOT and
Mayor Duran, in the interest of time, we'll yield our positions.
are there any specific comments, questions by the commissioners of MnDOT that you want to bring up to the table?
Mayor Duran, since it's a full commission, I seem to ask this every few months. What's the status of the Pine Avenue Bridge right now? I keep getting asked by my constituents when that's going to open.
I would yield to Mayor Copeland, since that is now a issue.
Last I heard from Ms. Vick, it was just the completion of the last permits. The land transfer swap has happened.
So it's everything's on schedule.
All the paperwork has been signed. Just waiting on Ms. Vick.
You know, like a projected date, Mayor Copeland? I mean, I'm literally, so I can tell my constituents.
No, I wish I could tell you that, but I don't have it.
Thank you, sir.
Any other business that needs to come in front of the commission?
Cedar Lake is having a parade of lights November 23rd, and I am requesting maybe 3 members of the commission that would like to come down there and judge the floats. So if you're interested with that, see me after the meeting.
That's the Friday following Thanksgiving, correct?
It's a Saturday before Thanksgiving.
Saturday before Thanksgiving.
You want us to make nominations?
Something to put on your resume.
Get free dinner at the White House restaurant?
Maybe sandbar.
Okay, we'll open up to public comment. Yes, sir.
My name is George Malice. I'm
Excuse me, could you give a microphone?
Got one coming.
Thank you.
My name is George Malice. I'm on the board of the Sierra Club Duneland Group. We represent 6 counties in northwest Indiana, including Lake, Porter, and the 4 counties. We have submitted to this board a resolution opposing the Ileana Toll Road, and we oppose it for a variety of environmental and social issues. We hope that you have received and read our resolution, and that you in fact support the no-build option. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
I'll keep my comment brief. First of all, let me thank you, and I agree that there are many talented people here, and many people with great intentions. And what we'd like to do, what I'd like to do on behalf of Everybody Counts, my name is Roy Dominguez, I'm a member of Everybody Counts, I'm a board member there. And I want to thank Gary for his report, and also the ad hoc committee, Mayor Copeland, and the entire committee for your time. And you're right, it was intended to be 2 meetings, and we ended up doing 5, and we had a great meeting. That's what meetings are about. We're able to give and take. However, I must say that the document that was distributed today was not on the table. So we don't know, Mayor Copeland, what is it that the final product that you all or the staff came together so that we could have even reviewed it. We were part of the committee, and when you had the final document, and I don't mean you, Mr. Mayor, I just mean that we didn't see it. We didn't have it. And I don't know why. And that's been one of our things as far as our communication. But first and foremost, we believe that a regional bus transportation system is necessary and it's important. And we're nowhere closer to that. And we want the discussion to continue. We want the discussion to start. It is a civil rights matter for our people, for our constituents. This is where they get around. This is where they live. This is what they want, and we don't see that any closer. In fact, I would submit that we're further behind than when we were 20 years ago. But nonetheless, we'd like to have that. In terms of the deficiency and infirmities in what you passed today, subject to a condition precedent that your lawyer says that it's okay, so that we understand it, so that we can take it back to our lawyer, Mr. Chairman, is that it has not been passed, it has not been approved. And until you get that notice, we'd like to be noticed too, because that consent decree, we are part of that consent decree, whether we or our legal counsel is notified of your final determination, we would appreciate it. Also, you should know that at the Maryville open house, there were 4 members of the general public. 4 members, 4 people. You get more than 4 people at any open house. The East Chicago open house, you should know, all the board members, you should know, in terms of members of the public, there was 1. There was 1 person. You can get more than half, less than half a dozen, more than 1 at any open house. That is not a meeting, that is not public information. We have asked for months, how about your contact list? We'd like to see who your contact. Did you know they didn't have a contact list? Ty Warner, I'm sure you received my letter, gave us a hodgepodge of lists. It wasn't even computerized. It was just put together. And that's what they're going to work on. They're going to work on putting together a contact list for public participation. But which one comes first? You're going to contact the public? Or you're going to have the meeting so that 1 person shows up. You're going to have another meeting so 4 people show up. And then we're going to develop a contact list. So those are the things that we're concerned about. Those are the things that we will be considering when we talk to our legal counsel. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to say the word. Is that a comment or a question?
That was a comment. I'm just going to comment.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
My name is Joseph Cunningham. I live in Gary, Indiana, and I'm a graduate of Roosevelt High School. I've lived in Gary all of my life. I have 2 children and a wife, young children. So I'm invested in Gary, Indiana, and in Lake County. My comment is, why isn't it in the newspaper? Why isn't it written in the newspaper when you have these meetings? Why isn't the general public notified? The other thing is, you have your meetings way out here in, what's this city? Portage? Okay. The people that benefit from the transit system are poor people. People who can't get out here because they don't have the transportation to get out here to Portage. Even your meetings, your public meetings that are held should be held in an area where the people who are most disenfranchised can reach by bus, by transit. And it should be put in the papers notifying the poor and the people who are concerned about their city but don't have a voice to speak up. So I'm thinking some changes should be made, and should be made quickly. Now, as far as the not knowing about the 30-day notice, this gentleman has been your lawyer for I don't know how long. And if he doesn't know that, then we need to get a new lawyer. No problem. So I'm just saying, some major changes need to be made to include the people who are poor, people who are handicapped, the disabled, and the people who are disenfranchised. The ones that you say you're working so hard for. Let us have our voice. Let us be heard. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jim Nowacki. I'm a resident of the city of Gary. I've always been enthusiastic about the improvement project on Route 20. Had great hopes that the initial plans, initially it was going to be all ground down. There were going to be improvements on the sidewalks. It was going to be quite a respectable improvement in Northwest Indiana. I've been before this board a couple of times expressing my disappointment about the results of that. Last week I made some comments regarding the problems with the sidewalks, and it's been an ongoing problem. I'm happy to report that the sidewalks that have been installed over the last 45 days are a remarkable improvement over the sidewalks that had been installed the previous 45 or 60 days. So I'm grateful that the comments that I had made were on line with the aspirations of the state, and they had made those changes in the way the sidewalks were installed. Some of them were completely redone, as a matter of fact, and I'm grateful for that. Regarding my comments, though, and I made in my public comments, there was a comment made by the commissioner representing our city regarding my insistence that the sidewalks be put in properly, and that commissioner responded according to the minutes that road projects with pedestrian improvements are not required. Of course, that is in direct contradiction for almost everything I ever hear at these meetings, including our Representative Soliday, who says, we have to have a policy regarding transportation-oriented development, and transportation-oriented development requires sidewalks. You cannot have livable cities without sidewalks that are properly and suitably installed. And when you've got a road project that goes right through the center of the second largest city in Lake County, you have to question who is making these decisions that sidewalks, pedestrian improvements are not required. I noticed in one of the documents that there are 540 projects that NERC was looking at. Only 10% of those were pedestrian or bicycle projects. And we want to give everyone an award for doing a good job. But it's sort of like giving Captain Andrews, and you remember Captain Andrews, he was the captain of the Titanic, an award for successfully getting the Titanic to 90% of the North Atlantic. It's ridiculous. The project needs to be successful. The road looks great, and if you've driven on it, it's a wonderful improvement. But I have to say that the sidewalks that were part of the initial installation are still a disaster, and I would just take a little exception when the representative, our commissioner representing our city, says that pedestrian improvements are not required. I think that's wrong, and I think the commission has to overlook those comments and insist that pedestrian improvements are part of these projects. I'm going to throw out there that we really need sidewalks along Route 20. particularly between Utah Street and Lake Street. It's part of the transportation-oriented development that you're talking about. You have hundreds of people a day walking between the apartment complexes, the shopping opportunities, and there are no sidewalks. They have to compete with traffic, and I think that's just and all we really need is a 6-foot sidewalk from Utah Street to Lake Street. And I'm hoping that you'll put that maybe the commission can look at that perhaps over the objection to the commissioner representing our city. Thank you.
Renee Jackson Gary, member of the ad hoc committee, and I would like to thank the members of the commission that was part of that committee. I enjoyed working with you. I think that we started a very good dialogue that opened the door to understanding some of our concerns and future dialogue that we can, start and get into. My concern is that I'm disappointed that after dragging my poor weary body here morning after morning, I do not have a copy of what we accomplished. You pass around a document that I have no idea what is on it, and I think that's a little unfair, so that is my concern.
If I can respond to that, either way, I just received that document this morning from Mayor Copeland, so it just came to me as chairman, where we're reviewing that document, and when we are prepared to take that work product and disseminate it, your group, everybody will have an opportunity to see that. We just received it here this morning, so I'm 10 minutes ahead of you. That's about all. I just received the document myself.
And again, that is the reason why I felt, just due respect, the chairman gave me the task, and that he should be the last to look at it, because we did serve at his pleasure, and it will be enacted the way that he sees fit. So I didn't see a way to give somebody that without his eyes using it. Okay.
Teresa Torres. I would echo all of the positive remarks that were made about the efforts that were undertaken by the volunteer members of the ad hoc committee. However, I have this audio loop on, but it only works when people use the microphone. I'm not certain what actions you took with respect to two things. One has to do with your report that was submitted. I don't know if it was forwarded upon and received. Secondly, the public participation plan itself, that, as you say, Mayor, I understand why it hasn't gone out, but did you vote on any of these things? Because I'm not clear. Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. That makes it a little better, because one of the concerns that we've had is that when documents are discussed at public meetings, they're not available for the members of the public that are here, and everything that I understand about open door law, but certainly I'm not an attorney with billable hours. But everything I understand says that if you're discussing a document, unless it's about a lawsuit or personnel, it should be available for people in the audience to know what you're talking about. If, however, you didn't take action today, then that tempers our concern. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Kelly Dudley. I'm an attorney. I'm from Chicago, but
It's on.
She's on? Okay. Oh, hi, I'm Kelly Dudley. I'm an attorney from Chicago. I don't practice here, but I followed Everybody Counts lawsuit from the beginning. I'm a board member of Everybody Counts. And during the whole time that we worked preparing the data that went to the lawyer to form our lawsuit, sending complaints over to NERC, this dates back over 20 years. I was a non-lawyer when I started, and I would meet with the attorneys that Everybody Counts hired at various times. And every time we reviewed a document, I want everybody in this room to know that there was only one attorney identified working for you, and that was David Hollenbeck. There was only one attorney that was ever identified to me as negotiating the consent decree, and that was David Hollenbeck. There was only one attorney that was ever identified to me as who we followed up on when we would have concerns about the implementation and the violation of the consent decree, and that was David Hollenbeck. I have a very big concern that David Hollenbeck doesn't know the terms of the consent decree. I also have a concern that we were told by NERC staff some time ago that they were told by their attorney not to show you all and educate you about the consent decree. Now, you all run cities and towns. You all have business positions. You all have a place to live. You all got up and had something to eat today. So you know how to manage money. You know how to manage people. I strongly urge you to bring those skills to NERC, and don't be shy about using them on behalf of your constituents. When we were here for these small meetings, this task force meeting, the NERC staff bungling was an embarrassment to any elected official or any civil servant. They were asked if they had a mailing list. They hedged on it. They were pressed. Oh, yes, we do. Well, can you go get it? Well, it's on Mary's computer, so we can't get it because Mary's not here today. Then later, the very same staff who told us he couldn't access Mary's computer was emailing us from Mary's email account. If that went on in your respective cities and towns, I know that you would do the right thing. And I urge you to take the reins here and start doing the right thing with your hourly employees, your salaried employees, and your contracted employees. Take a look at the skill level and the integrity you're getting for the tax dollars you're spending. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Can you hear me? Mr. Chairman, you have one behind you when you finish.
David Wright, Gary Public Transportation Corporation. I'll be brief and just reiterate our position that the work on approving the plan amendment and the TIP are very important to not only NDOT, but Gary Public Transportation Corporation. There is grant money that could be impacted if there is a delay that continues with the Transportation Improvement Program, and we would just like to make sure that everyone knows in the room that the work on the TIP itself has not ended with that conditional approval, and staff or council has to work with everybody counts to make sure that we know what we need to do, whether or not we need to try to make sure we've got enough money that we don't have to amend our grants, because we don't have a TIP right now to apply for a grant. And if it's going to be 60 days, we need to know ASAP. If it's going to be immediate, we need to know ASAP. So please, work with everybody counts, get this taken care of, tell us how it's going to be taken care of as quickly as possible. I also very, very quickly wanted to reiterate and support something that another public commenter said. Sidewalks on US 20 in Miller, we're needed. They're needed. They help us out when it comes to picking up passengers. So Clay Street or Utah Street to Lake Street, please let's work on getting some sidewalks there. That's it. Thank you.
My name is Richard Mason. I'm a member of CAS. I do sports, handicap sports, and I live in Chicago. I don't have none in the area. I live in Maryville. But I have to give this council their props, because when I went to RBA council meeting, when they had that there, they usually, when public comments, they usually walk out, most of the people walk out before when we try to give public comment. And so you stay here. So I recommend that's very good. But we still haven't get where we really comfortable for public presentation. We would like for us, but like Gary Cousins, because he's been here for over 100 years, and we really think about it. Do you have been here since day one. And like they had the RBA, other transportation, and everybody else have regional transportation. Why Gary can't have our regional transportation for us? Because it's been here over 100 years.
Where?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Bless everybody else. Well, first I'd like to introduce myself. Some of you don't know me. And I'm going to get into the mic. I don't hear myself good as well. I am, by birth, William McCraven Sr. I come from a military background. My dad was a 20-year lifer. I've traveled here and there in my time of growing up. And my dad made a promise that he would come back to Gary, Indiana, this region, which I did not want to come. I was too young to make a decision. Amen. So I've been here for a while, since I think about 17, 18 years old. I just missed that storm you guys had in '67. And since I've been here, when I grew up in different areas, when I was about 5 years old, we lived in Michigan, right outside Mount Clemens area, outside of Detroit. I just believe I was about in kindergarten. And I was sitting down and the teacher asked us to take out and color the people on the page, the family. And at that time, some of you know, they had, the Crayola had colors for everything.
Yeah.
Some of you, maybe I'm 63, so I don't know how old everybody else is here.
Yeah.
But they had colors for everything.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, in that pack, they had a color that said flesh color.
I remember that.
Ah, somebody knows where I'm at. They had flesh color. So I've been around a little bit, 5 years old, seeing different colors of people's skin, but nobody ever made that out to me, you know, about that part of racialism, as they were starting to have integration in this area I was at. So I yet didn't know too much about the segregated part of my life yet. So at this point, I'm doing as everybody else was doing. We're all asked to color and make families and that. So I kept making families that were brown. I had heard it's supposed to be red people, so I made red people, yellow people. And I'm making all these different colored people. And when I got to one group, I took out the white crayon and I made white people. My teacher came to me and said, "Hey, where's my people at?" She was European, American. And I said, "Right there." And she says, "No, where's my people? You know, there's a color in the box for my people." I said, "No, you're white people." So I've been hearing the same old song all my life, since I've been born. It's the same old song. Whether, if you're a minority, whatever you are, you still hear the same song. You're always made that you don't belong. And here we are, we're in the same, how long ago? Almost 60 years later. I'm in the same space, but in a whole other different area. Now that I've become, quote, disabled, because I can't see good, which has been in the last few years of my life. Oh, by the way, I've got college education too. I worked in the mill. As a matter of fact, I've even been a professional clown. And I just wonder how many of you guys seen my sign when I was waving it around. Was anybody paying attention?
Upside down.
Was anybody paying attention to it?
Upside down.
Is it upside down?
Yes.
Well, does anybody in nursing, did anybody in nursing or anybody up in front of me, the board? Any board member see that the sign was upside down?
Yes.
Oh, that's another thing. I thought you were going to say shake your head. Now, is that polite? You're talking about etiquettes and everything is. I can't see you shake your head. I hear people all day say, right over here. I can't see right over here. I got a red cane, I'm tapping it. Take me down 4 hours down there so I can get some deodorant or some hair this or whatever else I need to get. And people are saying, go 4 hours down to the right and 2 hours to the left, and then look up. Can you imagine that you had to live there for 5 minutes? And then when it comes to transportation, before I drove all over the place, people see me all over the place. I lived when I was younger from 19 to 24 in Chicago, Hammond, Gary. I've lived in Crown Point. I've lived in Ross Township now. I've lived some all over the place here. And I drove some all over the place. And I got it treated all different kind of ways wherever I live. But that's not what I'm here for today. I'm here to let people know. People labelize people. We're not all the same. There's somebody here from Munster, Sherrillville, Valparaiso, Gary, East Chicago, Hammond, and etc. And everybody here, just because you get labeled everybody in Munster is not a doctor. Are they shaking their heads?
No, they're just kind of sitting over there.
Oh, so somebody is listening to me? They're listening to me. Can I get a hand? They're listening to me. Somebody's actually listening to me. Most of my life, people don't listen to me. And I talk enough for somebody ought to hear me once in a while, but it seems like nobody listens to me. So this fits what I felt like. I felt like I'm stereotyped. I felt like because I'm disabled, I had to have a shirt made. Perfectly had this shirt made just for this idea. It said, I may have lost my sight, but I didn't lose my mind. And people looked at it and said, what are you talking? Because I go to the store and I ask something, they start thinking like, quote, that a word I don't even like to hear people say, read with tard in it. It's right here. And it's, why do people, until you get injured, and I've not been like that. All my life I've been helping people. I've been sensitive to other people's needs. But I can't understand. I thought people were going to be like that when I grew up. But I found out they're very selfish-minded. And except you guys, something happens to you, it's not in your backyard, you don't care. You drive your cars, and I'm not even telling you what kind of cars you drive, but you drive your automobiles. So you don't really care unless you got somebody in your family all of a sudden needs some transportation. So I hope that doesn't happen to every one of you that's up here in front of me, that somebody in your family that's close to you has some type of disability, and now you're concerned and you get all behind it like all these celebrities do. They got millions of dollars because my child got cerebral palsy. Well, what about all these other children before your child got cerebral palsy that you didn't think about? And why you're up there, that's what I come here for, because I want you to understand that there's different entities here, and most of the time when you see that you got these people that you say in the public, I'm going out myself personally telling people about transportation. And I mentioned some of the groups, NERC, I mentioned the RBA, RDA, and all these other different groups, and they say, what's that? They have no idea what's that, or what it is. Why don't they know something about what's that? Why don't they know something about the money? Because politics is just like that. It's about ignorance. You don't want people to know something so you can have a meeting and it's the same old song. People are sitting in there, waiting there, playing puzzles, whatever else, waiting for the next person to say, you're not paying attention to the next person, your own cohort, so you don't even listen to each other. And yet, in my mind, I know like half the times I used to go to the union meetings. You go there, fortunately for some of us back in the day, I was a drinker back then, the tavern was right under the top, right under the bottom of the union hall. So you got, after you heard all the same old song and the same old malarkey, you know, nobody's going to do nothing. Nobody's trying to change nothing. But people keep putting stuff in their pocket. People keep going on vacations. People keep getting paid. And isn't it time that somebody actually, I tell people in church, because I'm a church, I'm also Reverend and Elder McCraven, Elder Mack. I also tell people in church the same thing. God is looking at you. And are you giving back to what you say you're supposed to be, the people that put you in that position? I'm just part of the voice of the people. I come, I bring my dog Moses, and you know why he's called Moses? Because he's saying, let my people go.
All right.
Stop holding people down because you're sitting up here and you got people that they don't want to be where you're at. They just want to be treated as a human being, respected and honored. They don't want to be put in a group and saying, oh, that's just a bunch of disabled retards or something. We're not that. We're some of these people that you're going to find yourself. If you look around, you see some of the greatest things that done by somebody that's disabled. Because somebody decided to look at them a little different and say, hey, wait a minute. They can still do this. They can still do that. They can still do this. And they're not took and looked upon and said, okay, wait a minute. It's time for somebody to really have a conscience. It's time for somebody to have a conscience, I'll say that again, a conscience, and look and say, okay, wait a minute, we're not just in here, I heard somebody say, that's my job.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say that, that's my job. Well, if it's your job, sir, then why haven't you taken the papers and done the work that you should have done, that you should have already had it, because you had ample time to do it? Then tell somebody else that's telling you about your job, you have to tell them it's my job. Well, if everybody did their job like they're supposed to be, people in the world would be much better off, including ourselves. Amen?
Amen.
And I've said enough. Somebody's pulling my coattail. Sit down, preacher. You know, sit down. 3 minutes is up. But I did this just because I wanted to see if anybody would at least look my way. Did anybody recognize I had people around here telling me, you got your sign upside down? Well, I put it upside down intentionally.
All right.
Because I wanted to see, would anybody that's in front of me actually notice that I got my sign upside down? So if you did, thank God, at least you gave me a little bit of attention. Because, I mean, I'm a human being. I don't want to be passed over like I'm not here, just because I got a dog. I got a dog, I thought it would be a little different. You know what it is with a dog? Everybody wants to pet my dog. Nobody wants to say hello to me. I'm still just something else than just sitting by the dog. So is that society or that's just life? I don't know. But if everybody comes up and, can I pet your dog? What about shaking my hand? I'll give you my paw too. And give you a lick too. God bless all of you.
Any other comments?
Good morning. My name is Barbara Blackman. I'm a retired nurse and retired from the Red Cross. First thing, I just have to say this. I just feel so sorry for Hammond for the bus system here. I don't have to say any more about that. I want to know also, the attorney, when he makes his decision, will he notify us? Also, I don't know why we can't meet in Gary or somewhere closer where people can get transportation. I can't walk out here, I'll try, and if I have to, I will.
Right.
Okay, everybody's had a chance to speak.
I asked a question earlier, I have a comment I'd like to make. Is that going to break anything? I asked a question for clarity on the report. Thank you so much.
I wanted to commend Gary Public Transit, East Chicago Public Transit, and the North Township Trustee's Office for a successful joint endeavor. We mentioned it last month. I want you to know it went extremely well. The Lake County Fair Board actually has asked us to come out the next meeting and give a report. We're doing the video. And so the concept of collaboration among local transit agencies is completely viable. We just need people to get out of the way. To that end, this particular poster, it says "Still Waiting," was drawn nearly 20 years ago and brought into this room.
Wow.
The ADA was passed in 1990. It's now 2013.
Wow.
These folks here are talking about their capacities and their potential to contribute to society. Those contributions cannot be made unless people can get to jobs, to meetings. So the first key thing is for you to start recognizing, you, and I don't just mean as commissioners, but as elected officials and decision makers, to recognize that the purpose of the law was not to ask for your charity, but rather to ensure that people, all people, have the opportunity to contribute that which they have to give. To do that, they need to get there. I just think it's a sad statement that this sign 20 years ago says, "We're still waiting,"
wow.
And we still are. Thank you.
Wow.
Okay, I'll close the public portion meeting. Get back to Ty for his
Same old song.
executive director.
And it'll be very brief, given the hour. One of the benefits of being at the end here is that a lot of the comments that I was going to make during my executive director's report get made by the individual committees, which is exactly as it should be, the ownership that you all take. And so one comment I want to make is just how pleased I've been to see the hands-on roll your sleeves up efforts of folks on the ad hoc committee to the building lease issue and working with all of that. You're not a commission that is afraid to work and get down to business and carry that, and I appreciate that. Just a very quick comment on the mailing list, since that was raised. The mailing list is disparate. We don't have a centralized mailing list, which is one of the things that we need to correct. We identified that early on and have been trying to find a solution to get that into a good common system that can also be integrated with social media and be able to have a strategic effort to be able to enhance that level of communication. Our Twitter accounts, our Facebook page are active and running and up, and so we're trying to do more and more online where more and more people are getting more of their information. Sarah, I think, has stepped out, but one of our GIS staff had put together, if you look on the website, a great integration with Google Maps of everything within that TIP document. There is a map where you can click on location information to find out information on each one of those projects proposed. And so I didn't want that to go unnoticed, that that is up there to try to enhance the level of information that's out there. Lastly, just to remind again about the Biblical Center's workshop, this is a hugely, that Michael already mentioned, this is a hugely innovative thing for this region. And don't want that to get ignored as well. This is a significant part of NERC's moving forward and trying to put its planned dollars behind its actual planned components. And that is all I have. Thank you.
With that being said, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I had a couple of quick announcements.
Oh, I see the announcements. I'm sorry.
I will be very quick, I promise. Two very quick announcements. On September 27th, in LaPorte County, we will be hosting a Made LaPorte County event. Want to encourage anyone that would like to participate in that. It'll be at the Civic Auditorium. We'll have around 30 to 40, maybe even up to 50 manufacturers from LaPorte County that are showcasing all the things that are made in LaPorte County. And it is intended to highlight not only just the things that are made there, but also serve as an opportunity for folks to be aware of some of the different types of job opportunities that are available. I think that some of those items are transferable to a lot of different counties. And also, this evening will be the final concert in the Arts in the Park series, and want to encourage anyone that would like to come out at 7 o'clock at Fox Park in LaPorte. The Tom Milo Big Band will be performing, and it is the 50th anniversary of the Tom Milo Big Band. So that's, I told you they'd be quick.
Any other announcements?
Mr. Chairman, since we're announcing Hebron Block Party is September 14th. We shut down Main Street in Hebron, celebrating the opening of an NDOT project a few years ago. We've carried on that block party. Come on down. We've got a lot of good food, a lot of good entertainment, and we've got a great laser show at 9 o'clock at night. So come on down. That's it.
Entertain a motion to adjourn? Motion.
How do I get there?
We have a second. All in favor, aye?
Well, you didn't answer.